And we are live with another day of Knights Arena Valorant Challengers North America. We've made it all the way to playoffs, and now we've got some upper bracket semifinals to play out. But before we talk about that too much, Fan Zone. You've heard me say it like 9 million times now. Just join the Fan Zone, and I'll stop saying it, I promise. pks.gg/fanzone. You guys can get involved in the action as well. In the Discord, you can ask questions to players in the post-match interviews, and you can also get their settings if you're one of those people who likes to copy pro player settings. Personally, I'm just my own beast, and that's why I suck. But let's bring in the people who don't suck. Talking about my analysts who are going to be joining me throughout the show. I'm going to welcome in Sully and M to join me on the broadcast. I mean, it's been a good week already of competition. We've seen some teams find wins here in the upper bracket quarterfinals, but now, M, it's time to see what's going to happen in the semis.
Yeah, this is a very important match, as we were talking about before, because only 2 more BO3s until they qualify. So this is a huge and important match because you want to keep the ball rolling.
Obviously, a lower bracket run is not the worst thing in the world, Sully, but you know that teams want to be able to make it to the upper bracket finals, knowing that one best of 3 is what separates them from Ascension.
Yeah, it's a lot of pressure for these teams because 3 of them, I think, a lot of them have experience, and I'm talking about Moist Moguls, M80, and the Guard. 3 teams that, have been in this position before, or at least have a core of players that have been here before. But when we look at this upper bracket, and, you look at these 4 teams, there's one team that I think kind of sticks out in terms of a lack of experience, Bach, and that being Oxygen. They have never been in a position like this before, and so for them, I think there's a lot of pressure on them. Maybe not so much for a team like M80, who I think, a lot of people expected to be in this position, but for, an up-and-coming team like Oxygen and maybe Moist Moguls, for some guy like Sim on that team, this is kind of a new position to be in, and so I'm looking out today to see how these teams and how these players perform individually given the high-pressure situation.
What's interesting, too, is all of the quarterfinals 2-0. We did not see a single 3-map series. If you watched the mid-season face-off, we at least had one.
Yeah.
It was a 2-0 for M80 over Disguise, a 2-0 for Moist over TSM, a 2-0 for Guard over FaZe. That's the results, by the way, for mid-season face-off, and it just also happens to be the results here. The one difference was that G2 and Oxygen did go 3 maps there, but G2 in a slump in performance recently, 0-5 in the group stage, and they kick things off here with a loss as well. It's been a rough couple of months for them, to be honest. They're making their run through the lower bracket, and they'll be playing on later this week. But Oxygen, M80, the Guard, Moist Moguls, the same 4 we got in the upper semifinals for the mid-season face-off, except there's maybe a little bit more pressure on these teams. This is for way more than points and money. This is for Ascension.
Absolutely, and I think for what the upper bracket has turned out to be, I think it's, kind of how we expected things to go. Like, a lot of people definitely had M80 and the Guard qualifying for Ascension, like, right off the rip before Split 1 even started. So to see them here in the upper bracket, I think makes a lot of sense. But for Oxygen and Moist Moguls, I think 2 of the best surprises coming out of that open qualifier. Super excited to see them. I think a lot of people as well put Moist Moguls in like that top 3 category. So I think the initial matches went the way we decided. Granted, they definitely went a lot more handily than I thought they were going to go.
I think looking at today's schedule, too, you've got M80 versus Oxygen. You've got the Guard versus Moist. It's similar to what we saw, just flipped. It was Moist who played M80 in the quarterfinals last time, and it was Guard who played Oxygen. A lot of people would have put G2 and Shopify in the position of Oxygen and Moist, so it does kind of illustrate just how good these teams have been. And I'm not speaking about now, specifically going back to the beginning of the first split. When we looked at the teams at face value, a lot of people had them in the top 4, not these 2 teams. So impressive work. But let's hone in our focus here on this first match of the day. It's going to be M80 versus Oxygen. And I think that a lot of people are looking at this Oxygen team as potentially underdogs, and a large part of that is not due to their own doing. It's because M80 is just that good, Sully.
Yeah, let's be honest here. Like, without a doubt, M80 are the GOATs of challengers. Like, they're probably the most consistent team, like from Split 1 to mid-season face-off to Split 2 and up until, what we got to see the other day from them playing. There is, without a doubt in my mind, that this is probably the best team currently and probably has the best chance to qualify for Ascension. And there's no question about it. They have multiple players within that top 5. I think when you look at this M80 roster, you know that there's potential with every single player. Everyone can pop off. They've definitely, been coasting due to individual ability, I think, from Split 1 and Split 2, but that's also just because, their, I think, tactics are very, very sound. But what we're seeing a little bit more now, Bach, especially that we head into, like, the deeper side of playoffs, is this more experimental side, or not experimental, but a team that's showing a lot more depth than what we thought they originally had.
Yeah, you know, we were kind of talking about this before the show, Em, and as an in-game leader yourself in the past, you've probably taken some inspiration from teams. You watch a team like this, and it's hard not to get inspired sometimes because you see some creative setups and some really good team play.
Yeah, and M80 is the team that they don't really go innovative way in terms of their compositions that they're using. So that's why this is a team in particular that I like to study as an in-game leader, because they have the comps that a lot of other teams commonly have. So I like watching them because they have the setups down, they have their retakes down, they have these very important hits, and they're very aggressive. And this is a team that shows when they're playing confident, they're very scary to play against, especially when we saw them play in their first playoff game.
This is interesting too. This is just a quote from Nismo, who one of the better initiators currently playing. He even looks at John and he says, "Hey, like something's off here. You guys aren't talking about John the right way. One, he's the in-game leader, and two, if you actually look at his stats, they're not that bad. I think he honestly gets slept on simply because of the fact that
he's playing with quality with Xander, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to find a way to say it. He isn't as good. It's not really saying he isn't as good. It's just their stats are so much better that it's hard to shine. Like, you know, he's the dimmest light bulb in a group of very bright light bulbs. Like, he's gonna stand out a little bit, but it's not to say that he's bad. It's just that they're so good.
And he brings like this like layer of, I feel like, confidence as a leader. Like, these guys trust John to the absolute fullest extent, and we're not seeing like his crazy fragging power, but we are seeing like a John QT that I think is coming, you know, in his fullest. And he's, you know, I think M80 are kind of coming into playoffs and they're pulling out everything, like the full strat book. Like I was saying earlier, for a time it felt like a lot of the reasons, like I could chalk up a lot of teams' losses to M80 just being, you know, Koala Noob Xander diff at times. But now what we saw yesterday, I think, was a much more strat book deep M80. Like, they look like they have a lot more plays in mind. Something that to keep in mind is that John QT being that leader, he's not always going to be on the front lines, but yesterday John QT was quite literally something else. Arguably the best killjoy currently in challengers, and I think if we see the same John QT that we saw yesterday today, it's going to be a very solid game plan coming out from M80.
Yeah, and I think Nismo was right. He definitely doesn't get enough praise for what he does, and we saw that in the playoff game. He's not only in-game leading, but he was at the top of the scoreboard in terms of stats. And I think we were even talking about this at one point, that we pressed tab and he had 20 kills out of nowhere. He's a silent killer, I like to say. He's not super flashy, not super in your face, but he does what he has to do and gets the job done.
I remember interviewing him a couple weeks ago, and he kind of said, "Oh, I only died like 6 times." He's like, "I didn't even realize." Like, he didn't know that he did that good because he's not focused on that. It's not his main priority. His main priority is, let's get the team across the finish line. Let's find the win as fast as we can. If he shines, cool. And if not, he's like, I don't care. We won. That's all that matters is finding the W. As we take a look at their opposition, though, I think a lot of people are looking at Oxygen, again, as underdogs. But part of me feels like that's not fair. I think a lot of people look at them and just go, well, they're not one of the top 4 teams we highlighted at the beginning of the season. And they're maybe a brand that has a smaller presence in TAC FPS with Oxygen. So as a result, I do feel like they're slept on a little bit. This is the circuit points from Split 1, Mid-Season Face-Off, and Split 2. They are the number 4 team. And again, they're in the semifinals with the top 3, just like they were in the Mid-Season Face-Off. This team is definitely a much better team than I think maybe some people believe. We obviously know. We've watched them play. We've seen the set pieces. We've seen how they work as a roster. But maybe the audience at home or the fans themselves just don't see them in the same light as your M80s, Moist Moguls, the Guard, just because those teams have done so many impressive things. M80 has obviously won in the mid-season face-off. The Guard made it to Iceland last year. Yeah. Moist Moguls went 5-0 in group stage. I don't think you have that same conversational point with Oxygen as you do those teams, and that's why they kind of fade into the background.
And I do think it is pretty valid because obviously, like everything you just listed, they're also, out of these top 4 teams, the only team that has made roster changes. But the thing is that, you know, there was a period in time where I think a lot of people kind of associated Oxygen with just Scuba. And I think that's very valid. Through the open qualifiers, he was a very big reason why they had any success whatsoever. Then, like, at the very start of Split 1, it was just Vernal. There wasn't really a talking point for this team as a whole. But I think as, you know, the weeks progress, the months have gone on, the matches have been played, they've definitely refined their style into, you know, a very, very top team in my opinion. Like, their util usage looks perfect. The ideas that they have as well are really, really solid.
Yeah, and watching Oxygen play has been very exciting because I feel like they're exceeding everybody's expectations. We have a quote here from Redux too. I devote most of my important to Bankar. I was basically a ranked player. I did have a lot of bad habits, and Bankar is cracking down on me doing dumb swings and stuff. That was funny because we actually saw this interview 2 days ago, and I was laughing because that's true from Redux. It's important to be a player if you want to grow. You have to be able to take criticism. You have to be eager to learn and listen. And Redux is showing all of that. He's gonna be a huge star one day. And just watching his progression throughout this whole series has been huge.
Yeah, and I think Redux has slotted into this roster almost perfectly. Like, the general idea was to bring this kid up from the academy roster, and he's a key player. Like, I think despite like his inexperience and what he just said, doing dumb stuff sometimes, Bonkar is really big on like the technical side of his individual players. I think Redux has done a really solid job at only 16 years old, by the way. Like, he turned 16 only like a month or two ago. He's been insane. Wow. I think he's been very important in a lot of key rounds, especially taking a lot of initial duels against these other top duelists.
And it's also cool because in talking to him, I've interviewed him twice, and he doesn't seem to have an ego. He's got a good head on his shoulders. It's hard to imagine a 16-year-old not getting an ego, knowing that the team literally made changes despite a successful Split 1 and mid-season face-off just to bring him in. They didn't cut, but they benched one of their stronger performers from the mid-season face-off in Pony in order to make this work. They bring their coach up, their assistant coach, into the active roster so that he can play a role that he feels more comfortable with. That's the amount of faith they have in Redux as a player, which illustrates the talent that's there, the possible ceiling that can be reached. But the fact that he still has a level head and he's not like letting that get to him, he still approaches the game with that ability to listen to his coaches, to listen to his in-game leader, that's massive.
Yeah, he absolutely understands his role in this team as well. Like, the pressure is on him. There's a reason why he's been brought up. And, you know, when we're going to look at this matchup, we're going to say Redux has to be a key player because he's going up against arguably the best Jet in challenges right now, that being Qualinoob. And the last time that these two teams did play, Redux, I think, did a very solid job in terms of shutting Qualinoob down. But when we look at what the matchup was last time, one of the key things for Oxygen was Redux being able to get aggressive in post-plant situations, get aggressive on their defensive side, take a lot of map control away from M80. And so when we go into this matchup, the key thing is, okay, what is this retake and what is this post-plant going to look like? Because for Oxygen, the win condition is Redux needs to be given time and proper utility to get aggressive in post-plants. That's where the success came from. The one map that they won against M80 was on Lotus, and a lot of it was Redux kind of pushing buttons and, you know, as he quoted himself, doing dumb swings at time, but dumb swings with proper, you know, a good mindset and proper utility to support him at times. So I think when we go into this matchup, there's pressure on Redux to perform, and he knows 100% what he needs to do to win this series.
Yeah, and the last time that they faced off versus each other, they played Lotus, Split, and Haven. Oxygen won the first map, and then M80 took it away the last two. So like you were saying, what does Oxygen need to do to take this series for today? Everything that you were saying, setting up Redux to be successful, Redux being successful in his picks is also important because you could have all the best flashes in the world, but are you feeling it today? Is your aim on point? And also, I think Oxygen is really good on their set retakes. This is another team that I study a lot. They have full-on retakes that they've done before, and then they just flood the site. They need to let M80 not be comfortable.
Well, we did have a chance to sit down and talk to the players as well, because as much as our input is maybe valid, their input is even more valid as they see things firsthand. Let's take a look and see what they had to say.
Yeah, I mean, playoffs is obviously when it matters. Like, forget everything we did in like Split 1, MSI Split 2. Now we're here. This is the most important thing. So I think it's like definitely a lot more draining playoffs. Like, you have to play a lot in a small amount of time, and matches are definitely like a lot of it's definitely energy draining, especially BO3 series with teams that are this good. Like everyone could beat anybody in the playoffs, and so it's important to like prepare in advance with the little amount of time you have for each opponent after the fact.
We've obviously been putting in work ever since, you know, Bonk joined the team. He's been building a strat book for us, and we've all been chipping in, so we have a lot of plays on every map, so we could go and pull out anything, and we're gonna be able to do it. So I think we're pretty happy with where we're at right now, with our strats and how we're playing.
We don't have a specific game style. I think we come in with a different play style depending on the team that we play. We can adapt to how they play, and then we change our style. It's a bit of a hard question for me to answer, because again, we don't come in and say, oh, we're an aggressive team, oh, we're really passive, or we're a defaulty team. Again, it just depends on the game plan. It depends who we're playing, and I think we're a team that's able to adapt, so we're a pretty flexible team, I could say.
I think it's pretty rare if we like completely just don't stick to like the plan that we have in scrims. Sometimes it's hard though, especially in like high pressure situations. Sometimes we like play slightly differently, but I don't think it affects. I think we usually play the same in officials as we do in scrims, even if it's hard.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I actually think like we all just despise losing or something. Like when we lose, we just sit and like just talk with each other for like 5 hours. Like last time we lost to Shopify, I think we were all in the prac room just watching and like talking about what we have to improve on throughout practice and like all of our problems. I think the conversation lasted 4 hours, like not over exaggerating, but I think like there's like a lot to talk about after any match at any scrim, and if you lose, obviously there's going to be a lot more, but yeah.
Yeah, so going into playoffs, I mean, having two rookies like Verno and Redux, we're going to try and keep them level-headed. We're going to try and hype them up. We're going to try and keep them calm too. I know energy gets really high because it's like a high-stress game, so we're just going to work on being calm and communicating. That's basically it. Play like how we do in practice, and we'll be fine.
I mean, I think it's incredible having a coach that's so experienced like that. Again, there's no one in the scene, not even in Europe or anywhere, that anyone has this guy's experience. So when this guy speaks, everyone listens to him. He knows what he's talking about. He talks about experience. He brings a lot, man. Happy. He works really hard. He's up all night every day, and he's definitely a big factor of our win streak for sure. So Happy's a big key for sure. Yeah.
I think we have like very high potential to beat like any team. I don't think we think that we're the underdogs from our perspective in any matches. I think it's just like the pressure, like how much the matches matter, but I don't think that'll affect us too much.
As much as Redux praises Bonkar, you heard it from Nismo, no one has the experience level of their own coach. It's hard to really argue against that. He says no one in the world really has a coach with that much playing experience, and it definitely brings something to the table. But we'll have to see how it plays out here in the match as we take a look at the maps for the series. It feels like we should go to comfortable and familiar territory, and that's exactly what ends up happening, as we're going to see Lotus, and we're going to see Pearl, and we're going to see Split. Sully, I really don't feel like this pick ban is all that surprising.
No, I mean, Oxygen, this was the one map that they actually took off of M80, despite M80 picking Lotus against Oxygen the first time around. So kind of both teams going to, I think, really good comfort picks. I think Oxygen's first map of Lotus, it will kind of make or break this entire series. Like, there's a lot resting on this Lotus map, and I think M80 are a team that always learn off a loss. So, you know, I think going into this Lotus map, M80 should have expected it, and if anything, they should have, you know, an adjustment to what their game plan was last time.
What's interesting, too, is the Pearl pick. We were talking about it. We have not seen M80 pick Pearl at all during Split 2. It was a map they played a bit more back in Split 1. In fact, if you remember correctly, it was a map that wasn't always perfect for them. They even lost in the opening series against OR Esports in surprising fashion. Obviously, they won the series 2-1, but they lost. I think it was like 13-10, so it was close, but it wasn't necessarily what a lot of people would have anticipated on that map. So in the second split, they kind of backed off the Pearl pick. They didn't ban it, but they also didn't pick it. They just didn't play it. It got second phase banned a lot. It was basically a third map, or it wasn't going to get played. So it was a little bit interesting now that we're back in the playoffs that we're seeing M80 return to the map. Clearly, they feel more comfortable than they did in the past. And then should we need it, we'll be going to Split. Now, interestingly enough, we have talked about how good Haven has been for M80. It's also a good map for Oxygen. It's kind of surprising to see that in the second ban phase.
Yeah, I again, like, a lot of it relies on this first map, in my opinion, for Oxygen. Like, those last two maps, the way that Lotus works is it gives a lot of space to the attacking team to set up in post-1 situations where Oxygen absolutely thrive in, right? But when it comes to M80 and the next two maps that we could see is Pearl and Split, those are two maps where you can be on it so quickly. As soon as that spike goes down, you can have 3 or 4 players immediately ready for a retake.
I just want to talk really quickly what we're seeing on the screen of this little team huddle going on. And as a player, I have to say, you have to realize how important of a buff this is. The team chemistry that they have, the environment, you can feel the vibe and the energy. Imagine a traditional sports team inside a locker room. That's essentially what we're seeing right here. They're getting hyped. They might even have music playing super loud. Look how they're all feeling. This is a huge buff being together in person, and I don't think Oxygen is, so that's something that is a little bit spooky here.
Hey, bitch mom.
You see the difference in the vibes, though, for real. Like, this is a huge advantage for them to have this chemistry that they're building in person and just get each other hyped, ready for this match.
For a second there, I thought that Mitch was drinking a juice box, like he just got from a juice box. That would have been great. But seriously, I think you nailed it. Like, this is one of the few teams playing in the top 4 that isn't at a boot camp. Actually, of the teams currently playing in the semifinals, Oxygen's the only one, and there are teams playing in the lower bracket that are also on boot camp. They're one of the few teams here that just don't have that opportunity, and I'm not sure why. There's a lot of reasons, I'm sure. I think Redux's age is certainly a big part of that, but the reality is, like, M80, they have this incredible chance to play on LAN, and they played on LAN for a while. So it's not like they're learning how to play on LAN. They're not adapting to a LAN environment. They've been on LAN throughout the split. We've done multiple interviews and seen the cheering section in the background, the kind of the goofy behavior that you get when the post-match interview is going on and there's players celebrating and enjoying themselves in the background. We've been able to enjoy that throughout the split, so you can understand the level of camaraderie that builds off of that. It definitely is very much like a locker room environment. You know, it stops becoming a team and it starts becoming like a family environment, like a brotherhood. And that's the buff that we've seen from M80. It's the buff we've seen for the Guard. And it's a buff we're seeing for Moist Moguls, who will be playing later today, also in a bootcamp environment for the first time. It's a pretty incredible thing. So I gotta say, it makes it a little bit harder. It's like just a little bit more difficult for this Oxygen roster. And M, you know, looking at this matchup in general, it already felt like the chips were stacked against Oxygen because M80 is just such a juggernaut.
It really is. And when we were listening to them talking into their interview, the difference of how they were answering questions, Nismo and Sander were saying, we lost a map from them and we're not okay with that. So, and then when we were hearing Mitch talk, he was saying, well, we're going to go in today with our plan and just try to stay calm and make sure that we're communicating with each other. Although that's very, very important, they're both going in with slightly different mentalities, I guess. Of course, both teams want to win, but they have different goals.
And I think for both sides, it's like M80. My question is, like, are you playing to win or are you playing not to lose? Because I think a lot of people are seeing M80 as like this, like it's their game to lose, in my opinion. But for Oxygen, like, again, like we talk about maybe not the camaraderie side, or like no one really like expected them to make this far. I think that, like, as a competitor myself, when you don't have that expectation, that pressure of, oh, we, like, if we lose, bro, we're gonna get flamed on Twitter, right? You don't have that. You don't have that fear, and maybe you can speak of it yourself, but I just feel like for Oxygen, it's kind of going with a very calm head. Like, whatever happens, happens.
Yeah.
You know, if a couple of them religious, like I always say, even though I'm not religious, it's in God's hands. Like, at the end of the day, I can't do anything.
You know, it is just one of those tough things, though, for Oxygen, knowing that they're facing off against one of the best teams in the league, potentially one of the best teams in North America, not even just in Challengers, in general. A lot of people have had this conversation since the start of the year that M80 could easily hang with some of the teams playing in VCT Americas, potentially even best some of the teams who are even playing in Tokyo, who have an opportunity to play at Champions. They feel like this team slots in pretty nicely. And we've seen flashes of it, right? Like, we've seen them where they have that level of play, but it also feels like at times they've kind of rested on the fact that they have such an advantage, an innate advantage with just some of the team play aspects, that maybe they they play things a little foolishly. And we saw that in their matchup in the quarterfinals. I think it was 7-1, and you've got Koala dry peeking, walking out mid on Ascent.
All right, well, they're up
It's just kinda
7-1. They're up 7-1.
check it out, right? And then they lose 2 rounds, and they immediately go, okay, hold on. Like, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Like, we haven't won the game yet. It's just 7. They could easily let this slip. This team is not bad. They took a timeout. They ran back-to-back aggressive executes, pushing A main and then pushing B main with 4 pieces of utility. They used the Nightfall, a KO flash. They used a Prowler. They had a fault line. They literally did everything, and then Koala dashed in, and they got 1 kill out of it, but it also set up a 2nd kill on Cypher, who was playing towards checkers. It was like basically the round was won because of that aggressive push, and the same thing happened the previous round. They have that ability to basically push a button and immediately decimate the opposition.
I'm going to say it. I feel like all 4 teams that we're watching today could definitely play with the franchise teams. They have been so exciting to watch and show that they've got what it takes to play up there, especially like you were talking with M80. M80 was so exciting to watch with their innovative comp that they had on Ascent, and they were in-your-face aggressive. Nothing was working versus that. The opponents were trying to just wait and spawn for those pushes. Again, they were still coming in successful because they were getting ground and adapting. And M80 is super good at adapting. And again, that's something that Oxygen will have to try to stop from happening.
Well, we are going to have to throw things to a very quick break. The lobby, just, sometimes that's the biggest challenge, is just getting into the game. We're going to throw things to a quick break. When we come back, we'll be jumping into map 1. Stay tuned. Well, we beat the lobby join challenge, so it seems like we're just about ready to jump into our agent select here for our first map in the series between Oxygen and M80. It is a rematch, and it's going to be kicking things off on Lotus. We'll see if the teams decide to swap the comps, but honestly, knowing these teams, I just don't feel like that's going to be something we see here. I feel like, never mind. Never mind.
Oh, there we go.
Phone. We got a Gecko play coming in. I was not anticipating that one, Sully.
Yeah, this is I think both sides, I don't know, man. I kind of didn't expect many changes whatsoever. I think the jet change for M80, putting Koala Noob on the Omen and then Nismo back on the Raze, it's very interesting from both sides. And I think Oxygen's mindset is we're going into a rematch on the map that we beat them on. We have to come with something different, because I think they're thinking M80 have this crazy Counter-Strike game plan from last time they played. I think both teams are trying to adapt to one another and, mix things up to catch each other off guard.
That is a really weird comp for both teams. I did not anticipate this. I mean, the fact that Koala Noob is not playing a duelist?
It's crazy to me.
What is happening? That is so strange.
The mummy jet.
Yeah, this is just really bizarre, but I guess we'll have to see what's going to happen when we jump into the game. We do have our casters standing by. It's Dustin Schiff to understand the insanity. Take it away.
Bach, you're trusting us to understand the insanity? That's insane in your own right. But no, this is going to be cool, man. This is one of those moments I feel like when we talk about high-level Valorant in the challenger scene, or VCT, whatever you want to call it, you're going to get to a point where you've got 2 great teams squaring up against each other. Time to pull out a wild card. And thus, both teams are pulling out something we don't expect.
Yeah, I mean, both teams moved away from the double initiators of the past into, in the M80 side of things, a double controller setup with Nismo playing Raze. I mean, this is completely different in almost every slot as far as what agents they have selected today, moving into that double controller. Koala Noob playing Omen, that is wild.
Yeah,
just completely crazy. Oxygen Esports, it's a little more standard. Obviously, the Gecko pick is a little bit of a curveball, but I would say M80's comp change is the more drastic one. I mean, it is top to bottom, almost entirely different than the other 2 times they played this map.
Yeah, going away from the double initiator, especially considering M80 is probably one of the fastest teams that we have in North American Challengers, definitely is a bit peculiar. So Verno going to get to work on using some of this very early Gecko utility to control some space. Oxygen get first blood. It's Koala Noob who was trying to get the Paranoia peek over through mid, but quick rotation possibly through door. Nismo is kind of stuck at the moment, but does have an exit. Little shoulder just confirms that, yes, there is indeed going to be hit over here towards C.
Yeah, Nismo does spot one there on the mound. Scuba down to low HP, so there is some inroads back for M80 here, though they are certainly a man down, and there is definitely a good chance that they could get overwhelmed. But this rotation through Waterfall has now reinforced this C site for M80, and this actually puts them in the best position possible to recover this round, despite the fact that Oxygen have had a pretty hot opening to things. It's all going to come down to timing, and if M80 decide to hold their ground, or if the silence will eventually cause them to have a little bit of doubt and start pivoting off this site. But as it stands, it's looking like we're going to see an all-out brawl here on C.
Yeah, M80 are going to call it, saying, yep, they're going to commit here. And if not, we can definitely just play for retake. Here comes all the utility on the way in. Yeah, a couple of stuns are through. Nismo gets overwhelmed. Oxygen finding ground to work with. 2 kills come out. EU on the rotation in, though. From the flank, he gets a double, and John finds another. Down to the 1v1. Redux, though, at full HP, and he's re-earned his paint shells. We'll use that immediately. EU at range. Tag down low, just a 12 HP. 12 seconds of the clock. Redux has been able to find himself the spike for a plant. That will reset the clock on this 1v1. EU coming around the corner. Timing of this is everything. But I mean, you see Redux, he's just fine and happy to hold this angle. EU has not moved an inch yet. And it's getting to a point you kind of wonder, what is he waiting for? Just trying to see if maybe you can catch Redux on this exit. Not going to happen. It's 4 for the raise of Oxygen. And how about that first start?
Yeah, really well played round there from Redux. This kid has slowly but surely launched himself into stardom. When he first joined the team alongside Pony as a Sentinel player, it was always the plan for him to be a starter on this team once he became of age, which was just really a few weeks ago. He hit 16, and now he is number 6 in KD, number 8 in ADR, number 8 in KPR, and number 9 in ACS. So he has quickly catapulted himself as a top 10 player in Challengers in this duelist role. And a lot of people, I think, question the gamble that Oxygen took by taking Pony off the starting lineup and throwing Redux in, because Pony was performing very well. But Redux, to his credit, has really been gaining traction each and every game and seems to be getting better and better as he gains more and more experience with each match.
Yeah, it's a really big shout out. I mean, yeah, Pony's definitely not something to be slept on, but as far as the team is combined and considered, definitely Oxygen finding a little bit more value here. I mean, we saw it with Rustin filling in initially. I mean, he looked real solid, and now he's one of the better lockdown killjoys we've had in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So it definitely feels like it makes sense for Oxygen. This round, though, for M80, just a single ghost, everyone else on classics. Double rifles out for Oxygen on their approach over towards A. Initial utility, good exchange on both sides, and it's actually Nismo who gets the credit of the paint shells to find first blood. The defense will have a chance to pick up one of these weapons, and Oxygen are a little bit stuck trying to get in towards B here, does.
Yeah, they were trying to do the old classic A fail, B fallback plan, but it hasn't quite worked out. The wingman gets taken down, so now Spike is exposed on the site. They're trying to smoke off the stairwell and get back into sight to get the Spike back. They do, thanks to Virno's movements there, but they are getting shut down on both fronts. Eventually, they're going to find this gap onto B. Turret will detect it, so M80 are aware. Again, they do have man advantage now, and Rustin's low on HP.
Oh, Mitch, no! Almost got Quality, but it's again EU who gets the double. Had either a smoke or paranoia at the ready, but the rotation continues. Now over towards C.
10 seconds left.
Plenty of time for the plant. Scuba holding with the rifle. Pushed off the angle, though. Quick motion here from M80. And Scuba gets a little tag on the way out. And how about the headshot from Xander? All of a sudden, M80 with pistols and a stinger have the numbers. Scuba still in a position to lock things down, though, for the 1v3. Not gonna happen. It's John's Ghost that gets the job done. And how about that for a thrifty from M80?
Yeah, and it's early days, scrappy affair here between M80 and Oxygen. I mean, we kind of anticipated that this could be a barn burner when you have M80, who's essentially the #1 team in North American Challengers, taking on Oxygen, who I think is debatably #3 or #4 in the region. Obviously, these two teams have played each other in the past, and it was a 3-map series. We know that both these teams are incredibly talented and incredibly deep tactically. Both teams capable of playing very up-tempo, explosive Valorant, but can draw back when they need to. I just think that the two advantages that M80 has is, one, experience. I mean, these guys have all played VCT in the past last year and have been on top teams in the past, where Oxygen is kind of more of the upcoming generation, so to speak. I think the other thing is that M80 has not had to deal with all the roster movement that Oxygen has.
That's a good point.
And so I think that's kind of the two separating factors that we're going to have to see how that makes a difference throughout the series.
All good points. Nanostorms all over the place. Actually, Redux gets taken down. That's in the middle of his showstopper. What in the heavens has happened here? EU another double. That's 3 rounds in a row where he's doubled down. Oxygen still trying to battle back, but in a little bit of trouble here as Virno will drop. It all comes down to Scuba. In the blink of an eye, what looked to be a heavy-handed execute towards B gets completely squandered. And Scuba is in dire straits here in the 1v3.
Yeah, Spike well out of his possession, so really no way to pivot. He really just has to try to take this fight head on. He's got time. He does have a rifle, decent health, but that's really all that's going for him right now because he's up against 3 fully healthy M80 players who have Spike down right there in front of them. And Koala Noob eventually will pick up Scuba there. Also, just a little fun fact. I mean, I know that Koala Noob is known for his jet. We all know that. He's one of the most aggressive duelists in North America. This will actually be his 24th official match on Omen, though, so he is no stranger to the agent. It's just been quite some time since we've seen it. So just want to kind of throw that little tidbit out there because I think that was probably the thing that jumped off the page most about these agent selections. Yeah, of course. And Nismo obviously was known as that Raze KO like hybrid player from last year for Ghost, and very strong in both roles. So
yeah, just to kind of
add a little bit of context to this composition change here, as M80 take the lead and looking to extend it as Oxygen on a low buy.
Spread of the map here though for Oxygen, but not going to work out. First blood tallied. Xander gets one at range. Over towards Rubble. It has not dissuaded Vernal from continuing to try to play forward. He does get a little bit of a knee shot, but this Sheriff is going to have to hit a little harder than that, and, well, he gets a chance for it. Okay, EU. First round that he won't have 2 kills in it. And Oxygen will have a little bit of ground to work with here in the 4v4.
Indeed, Rustin trying to make some headway into B off the turret, but swatted back by John Cutie. As we see the Spike and the rest of the Oxygen starting to kind of gather back up over towards the A side. Virna was trying to pick up the rifle there, but the Nano Swarm separates him from the upgrade. Mitch, though, slides into main. But M80 are fine giving this space up and just playing the superior firepower for the retake if need be. Especially they just want to avoid this ult here. I mean, this is big.
Yeah,
you do not want to get hit by this.
Yep. Well, Scuba does get that rifle. So we go into a very even 4v4, not just by numbers, but the weaponry starting to become more significant here for Oxygen. You already mentioned the Thrash that's alive. Possibly could be utilized here. Nismo in the corner. There it is. Oh my goodness. Mitch uses this a little bait and switch and takes off the head of Nismo. Xander will get to work on the Gecko ulti, but Xander's going to do a lot more than that, and he gets shut down. It's Verno at range with the Sheriff. Small moment of detain coming out. John uses that as a chance to at least collect 1 elimination, but the number is good for Oxygen. It's all down to Koala Noob. Spent plenty of time talking about him here just a moment ago. Can he find a way to work through this 1v3? He's got Rustin at low health, but full HP across both Mitch and Scuba. Silently slinks his way in. Right down the ropes. Turret will scout him out. Still plenty of utility to work with. Dark cover will be spent first. Tries to clear out drop. No one's home. It's Mitch from behind that takes him down, and another Thrifty's tallied this time for Oxygen as we're locked into 2 apiece.
Yeah, kind of wild that Mitch was the one that got hit by the Thrash there, so a little bit of a ult used against the teammate, but wound up not really mattering. Oxygen spread this back up 2-2, and remember, this is the map that Oxygen did beat M80 on in their previous matchup, and a lot of the reason for that is because they had an incredibly hot start on the attacking side, and they wound up with 8 rounds when it was all said and done. And that really has been their path to victory each and every time, is having the strong attacking sides. It's their defense that has struggled, and that's why they have a 2-3 record on this map. But so far, they're keeping themselves in the mix, but as soon as I say it, Follow Noob at Mound, aggression at its finest.
Yeah, he even takes care of the Dizzy as well, so there's a chance to deny any further that utility if he can just hold this angle. Not something that Oxygen wants to threaten at the moment. So this will be a little bit more hard pressed. You lost your entry duelists. You've lost your ability to at least flash off of 1 agent in this comp. So you really kind of look to see what Mitch and Scuba can do to combine to open up some works for Oxygen to try to work their way into one of these 2 spike sites on.
Got the gathering here at Rubble. Looking to push forward. Alarm bot kind of guarding the entryway into A side as well as the stairwell to give that information to M80. Wall is broken though, so that B pivot's wide open for the taking for Oxygen. C mound control being held by Koala Noob is allowing for the rotation defensively to kind of reinforce the A and B side. Rolling Thunder thrown in, but not phasing anyone.
And then the response to Nightfall comes out. This is all just a bait and switch, though. So ult for ult leads to a pretty wide open B site. But Koala Noob getting the work done. EU on the way to try to challenge. And just like that, the entire idea of Oxygen is thwarted. 5v2. Oxygen are just looking for a lifeline just to get out of here at this point. But no, not going to be allowed to. Verno's just jumping into Koala Noob, who's very happy to accept it. And it's a flawless round for M80.
Yeah, a little bit of a fake throw with that Rolling Thunder on A. It certainly brought out the Nightfall from M80, so they did respect it in the end, but they still had the personnel at B prepared in case there was a fallback. And you saw Rustin was trying to take a forward angle up top, gets caught, and then everything just kind of collapses at that point as M80 now take the lead 3-2. It has been a back and forth affair so far here to kick off Lotus. We're starting to see M80 gain a little bit of economic control, though.
Yep.
As these rounds kind of go along. And I mean, again, M80 has only played this map twice in the past. Once was the loss to Oxygen because their defense kind of faltered, and once was the win over Disguised, where they kind of just bulldozed them.
Yeah,
in week
that was
9
the
of
double
Split 2.
initiator. You and I were on that one. It was just like Disguised could not find a way through that double initiator, which is, again,
I'm surprised to see it gone.
Exactly. That's exactly where I was going to go with how much success M80 had. Especially considering that, yeah, they did the same thing against this Oxygen squad. It just came down to them not being able to hold the retake last time these two teams had met. It is a very dramatic change off of what we kind of came to know.
Yeah, I mean, quite literally the only agents that are the same for M80 compared to that previous matchup are the Omen and the Killjoy. But they're being played by different people. Well, yeah, so besides John Cutie on the Killjoy, that's the one thing that's constant. So definitely a big change up because, again, I do like Breach on this map quite a lot. I think the Breach God combo is really brutal. But M80 had different plans, and I mean, so far so good. Both teams come up with 2 ults into this round and a full buy.
Yeah, and this is grind time now for Oxygen off the timeout. Full buy here. I think the goal would be to get to 6 on this half. And they had a great offense, a lot of success getting the spike down last time through. The same cannot be said here. So again, the extra control that you're getting from M80 technically is working out early. Cosmic Divide will try to change things up here, though, right off the rip as Scuba gets ready to go.
Yeah, again, Oxygen averages 7 attacking rounds on this map in the 5 or 6 games that they have played. So kind of keep your eye on that number, so to speak. As we see the Venn diagram of lockdowns, your old-time favorite. Just kind of canceling, moving out from both sides and just kind of putting everything at a bit of a stalemate. But it's killed a lot of clock, and Oxygen don't have a whole lot of map controller info. So
Cosmic Divide's gone too here, Dust. I mean, that's one defensive lockdown, shutting down 2 ults from Oxygen. The defense is back into place. So how do you execute here? Verno also does not have a lot of his utility left to go, so this is going to have to be just winning gunfights raw. Door opens. Nismo, other side, gets spammed. Still comes into the gunfight, goes 1 for 1. That's not terrible whatsoever. It also breaks the timing of this execute as Qualduke tries to hold down the front door. Good secondary fight from Rustin, though. EU on the corner, tagged off. Verno a chance to plant. The mosh pit holds back EU. Everything reset, but EU, goodness. The easy 1 for 1. 2v2 we go down. Up top, what a shot from Verno, but John responds with his trade. Okay, back and forth we go. Down to Mitch versus John. And John's the one who has to start to make the move. Mitch trying to clear, gets this correctly, but the gunfight needs to still come through, and as Mitch gets a chance at it, he finds the head of John, and we stay locked in at 3.
I mean, just continuously seeing scrappy round after round here. The biggest round streak was 2 from M80 early on, but it's been back and forth ever since then. Just everyone going out swinging here, trade after trade. I thought EU got a little bit of an edge there because Oxygen kind of gave them a couple of 1v1s. That was, I think, a little bit of a miscue, but they recover nicely. Mitch winds up winning the 1v1 against John Cutie, so no harm, no foul. It evens us back up at 3 apiece. Showstopper available for Nismo. Thrash once again available for Verno. Looking to get that C-mount control early here.
Early fault line will guarantee that, but the M80 defense is very planted.
Yes.
Got all of your Killjoy utility. You've also got your Viper here in place, ready to go, and not too far away is EU. So M80 are in a good defensive spot if Oxygen try to commit into C.
Yeah, and what's really propelling this is that M80 had this deep rubble position on the A side of the map defensively, so it kind of allows them to stack C a little bit more heavily and kind of just play off utility if they need to retake B. Redux. Trying to build up that showstopper with that orb grab, keeping that pressure on C-Mound. But now we're seeing the fallback towards A side, and I'm curious to see how this plays out because M80 are holding their ground here for the most part. They're not looking to back up, they're looking to fight.
Yeah, and if they see any contact, the showstopper can come out immediately. There's Thrash. Paint shells come through, that holds back push out, and that ultimate is completely wasted off of that. Now, the showstopper through, but blinded doesn't make a difference. Nismo still catches Mitch. Hold, maybe still on the way. Side it goes down. Nismo still holding deep. Paint shells re-earned. He'll toss those back into the mix and has himself an exit. EU there to assist. And the offense once again comes up a bit empty. 2v4. Have to stick for a plant. EU up top will gain control of drop. And as soon as he gets sound cues, maybe there'll be a chance, but Verno timing with the Nebula down, maybe a second here to where you can kind of sneak through the defense, but no. And that's the spike now down. Scuba, try as you may. There's not going to be enough time for you to find all 3 kills.
Yeah, that really just, again, comes down to M80 being very proactive on this defense, and they're varying where they're doing it at. We've seen them take forward position at Mound in the past with Koala Noob, and now this time around they doubled up A side to really hold that ground down. And this proactive defense is allowing them to deny a lot of map control and intel to Oxygen. It's freeing up their rotations and stacks a little bit more. And that was just a beautiful combination of utility to stuff Oxygen, never allow them, even with the Thrash, to get out into the open of rubble. You know, great job by Nismo with the paint shells and the fragging. Obviously some good support from his teammate there. And they're starting to gain a little bit of control here. If they can break Oxygen's economy here right now, this is where M80 can start taking over.
M80 looking to not just take over in the map, but also right here in this round, 3-man stack at Mound. This dark cover will fade. There is a sentry turret right in the middle of it, but M80 are looking to go a little bit further forward. Paranoia out. Prowler also comes to mix. Smallball trying to get Nismo forward. There's the Paranoia. Here comes the play, and Nismo rips him apart. A double for Nismo, and Oxygen already down to 3.
You got to feel like this aggressive defense from M80 lately has been the big difference maker in how the rounds are starting to play out. It seems like Oxygen are starting to get a little bit rattled, not really getting that comfortable footing. The launch into sites are being disrupted time and time again. Again, you got to respect the dynamic defense of M80 here. Always changing it up, making it hard for them to read, and they're just now winning all of their gunfights across the map. We're really starting to see kind of a pivot away from a scrappy affair to M80 really kind of clamping down and controlling the game, but still a chance here for Redux with the showstopper.
Yeah, could happen. Redux is playing a little bit further forward here. Boombot out, but he gets caught. Nismo just catches it by surprise, and EU will finish the job, taking down Scuba. Wow. I mean, these have been real tight rounds, though, but you're absolutely right when it comes to the narratives, the trends, how the patterns are starting to shift since the Oxygen timeout. M80 have found these little advantages, I think, just, again, because, like you mentioned, they're just being more proactive and they're getting away with it right now.
Yeah, I think the big thing is there's just this mystery surrounding M80 when it comes to this map. They've only played it twice. The sample size is not really there to understand what their pedigree is on this map. I mean, again, we know M80, super strong team on Haven. We know that they're very good on Ascent. We know that they've been great on Fracture. It's just we haven't gotten to see their Lotus a whole lot. But I think with this massive comp change and just watching how they're playing the defense, this is a big difference between the previous matchup. Oxygen got 8 attacking rounds the last time they played against each other. Now, at best, they're going to get 7. And, I mean, it's going to be tough to do so in a round like this when you're just working with SMGs and pistols for the most part.
Agreed.
So this could be the big difference maker between the previous matchup and today. Is just M80's defense being more stout.
And it's stout in a way that is not allowing these spikes to get down comfortably. Sure, they're getting planted, but it's in 2v4s, 2v5s, things like that. Little buddy will get to work, planting though. A momentary 6v5 sees Oxygen fully surviving it, and Redux just, oh my goodness, wiggles, puts Sanders on skates for a moment. Boombot comes through, but Quality with the operator out. Tallies the shot, taking us to a 4v4. Shorty out, that will get the job done. Are you kidding me? More to come, but Nish shuts it down. 3v2, still numbers for Oxygen. Now it's just down to Nismo. Last one standing, lots of low health pulls. He gets the first 2 cleanly. Showstopper now earned. Has the prediction, but not quite the timing. Nade goes through. Nismo could get this to halfway. Just comes down to, does he hop off to take the gunfight? He sure does. Verno has to check it. Just a sheriff in hand. There's the shoulder check. Satchel goes forward, trying to boop him away from the angle, but doesn't matter. Verno hits the shot, and it's our third eBay Thrifty, getting Oxygen back to within 1.
Yeah, just when it seemed like M80 were grabbing control of the game, they get swatted right back. Redux doing some big work. I thought the response from Qualanoob would be enough when he doubles up like this. I thought he was even going to find a third here, if I'm honest, up close with that second shorty attempt, but all of a sudden, Oxygen just flipped the script in rapid pace and steal the round away. And again, a lot of that comes down to Verno, who has been really one of the best up-and-coming initiators in North America, in my opinion. He has been that next guy that's coming up, like Trent has done in the past, like Derek has done in the past. He is kind of that guy for Oxygen. I mean, he is, you know, the top 10 ACS player, number 2 KD, top 10 in kills per round and average damage per round throughout Challengers. That's including both splits, the mid-season face-off, and their first match of playoffs. He has been, I mean, just a stud for this Oxygen squad. I don't really know how to say it. I mean, I think he's been their most consistent player, to be quite honest with you. And yeah, Redux has become, again, a player that's been getting better and better with each game. We know, you know, how Scuba in that controller role, how talented he is. Obviously, Mitch is that wily veteran. And you're starting to see them, you know, in my opinion, have some impressive composure. I mean, it was looking like M80 were starting to grab control this half, winning 3 of the last 4 rounds, and then Oxygen come right back at him with that thrifty, and now it's back up for grabs.
Sure is. Very important round for Oxygen in the long scheme of things. As he goes out, Fault Line also pushes forward. M80 still holding the front door, though. Paranoia, they want to try to threaten this. Couple of shoulders back and forth. Showstopper trying to turn the fight, plus the Rolling Thunder on top of it. It gets to a 2-for-1 exchange. Oxygen with the numbers, but M80 defensively starting to put together the rotation to try to deal with this.
They are, but they're going to have to do so a man down. And with the attacking side getting in some nice forward positions, Mitch with the span through the smoke pretty much cuts off one of the retake angles right away. It's really going to be down now. See if John QD can do anything with this flank. I mean, that's really their only hope.
Oh, they're going to double hit it. EU's going to help him out. If he decides to pop the door, that is. No commitment for Oxygen yet on the plant. Finally, Mitch will get this underway. And the post-plant setup, all 4 members will hold in and around the site. EU just comes down to what timing do you pop this door, because as soon as you do, you're going to call a little bit more of this post-plant attention. And Verno, oh, he's seen one already, so if this door opens, they know for a fact that there's 2 back there, and that's enough for M80 to say, all right, you got it, let's go tied up at 5.
Yeah, the credits certainly dictate saving is a good option here for M80. That's going to tie things back up at 5 apiece. So Oxygen getting right back into it after a little bit of a drought. I mean, again, I think both these teams are just tough to play against because of how deep their playbooks are. And so both these teams have a lot of different options and a lot of different looks they can give. And then it just becomes, you know, chess at that point.
Sure.
You know, who's going to be able to make the key adjustment at the right time? Who's going to get that one timing or that one key frag that makes the world of difference? And again, these 2 teams are, you know, as Odessa's kind of alluding to, they're a lot tighter together than people think. I mean, I think Oxygen has grown quite a lot, similar to Moist Moguls. I mean, those are the 2 squads that really grew so much over the year.
I'm so glad that you just drew that parallel, because when we were talking through the previous round setup, I was like, Oxygen feels like Moist Moguls like 3 weeks later.
Yeah.
They're really starting to come together. They make the right moves.
I think that's the thing. It's just it took them a while because they were making the roster moves. That's what kind of set them back a little bit.
Uh-oh. Hold on a second here, Dust. Oh, what a little bait and switch. The blast pack goes over the top. Nismo only gets 1, which is still not bad, but it definitely could have been a lot more deadly considering the angle. Oxygen throw down the Cosmic Divide, but they don't stick with the play forward, and it actually has baited Xander out of his Viper's pits. That's already been dropped down. And Oxygen are going to retrain their focus to see where Koala Noob is actually playing forward, waiting for this.
Yeah, he's playing this partial one-way on the wall, which gives him a little bit more breathing room to work with. But
he's heard it.
Yeah, going to have to fall back to the side. He does have support here from EU. As the stars come down, lockdown in place as well to start clearing a way forward onto the C side for Oxygen. EU trying to play the counter hot here.
Yep. Timing of it could still allow Xander a chance. Timing here is decent. Xander gets 2.
30 seconds
Sacrificing out his life. He turns the tides now to M80 in a 3v2. Mitch is down to 2 HP. Oh, it's just so much good commitment. Mitch will not be able to plant down to Scuba for the 1v3. Waldoop just inside his place Nebula. Nearby assistance from EU. Here comes the check. Scuba's gonna have to win this by eliminations, but Koala Noob will not allow him to, and it's Judge Heroics from Nismo and Xander that get the defense back into play.
And it's such a bold call from Xander too, Shift. I mean, if Oxygen waits 2 more seconds, he's detained. They get the frag on him, and they get sight. They have man advantage. They have everything that they want. But Xander, bold as ever, holds his ground, plays his life, knowing that he'll either die or get detained, but as long as he can do enough damage before he goes down, then his job is done, and boy, was it.
Yep.
Beautiful play from him. He's had a slow start to the game. That was a big, impactful moment to help his team get back ahead with 1 round left to go in the half.
Yeah, final round. Only ultimate on the table is from the shadows. EU is very close to his second nightfall, though, so keep that in the back of your mind if he finds elimination. Redux already finding his way in. Mitch just completely sidelines Koala Noob. Not expect that whatsoever from his perspective. And now Mitch looking to get more aggressive. Rustin there to follow up. And oh boy, he is setting a very aggressive post-plant line of defense. Nightfall had been earned though. That will push Redux back. Same situation. Rustin also out of there. Nismo on the flank. The defense looking to recover this 3v4. And oh my goodness! What has Nismo just done? This Boombot's really well placed as well. He knows there's somebody nearby. It's now a 3v2. Nismo over through Mound. Has both members nearby, and Nismo takes down a third. Just down to Scuba. Final star gets used. Here comes the double swing. Can Scuba double up here? No, not gonna happen. EU gets the kill. Is there enough time for the defuse? It'll be close, but EU, it's gonna be real close. I don't know if he's got it. Wow, what a save. And we'll have ourselves an eBay clutch and a 6-6 half.
Yeah, I think the double push Mound wasn't the play there. I think they had to leave one on Spike and just trust on the 1v1. That or there need to be a little bit better timing between Nismo right in this moment and one of his teammates to pinch. A little bit of a misstep there from M80 is going to cost him the round despite getting the frags. It's going to keep us square 6-6, but it's still an improvement defensively from M80 between their last matchup where Oxygen got 8 attacking rounds that time around. So it's a little bit more even in that regard. Again, it was a very back and forth half. No one got more than 2 rounds in a row at any point in time. So, I mean, at this point, who knows where this is headed? But the defense, I will say, has been Oxygen's struggle. There's been plenty of matches where they've gotten 5 or less rounds on the defensive side, and that's been their big problem.
The big difference, though, is the Gecko that's now in play. How much does that change? Likely the C-sided defense with 3 dizzies that you can just jump over the top of the waterfall wall here. So,
yep,
that's exactly what he's set up for.
Is that you also can't like just turn away from Dizzy like you can a guiding light or something like that. Like you must be, you know, around the corner from it or something like that. And yeah, the fact that you get to just kind of freely throw it as Virno does there at Waterfall for info at Mound is kind of a huge asset.
Oh, wow.
See ya.
Little double swing over towards A Rubble. Redux gets his head healed off. That does force Mitch back, and also on top of that, Rustin is rotating away from B, so M80 holds some significant advantages here, especially considering that Scuba is also down to a little less than half health.
Yeah, it's the classic quick start, slow things down, throw in the doubt. Mitch can get timing here, indeed he does. Gets caught with his pants down. As we are going to see the push onto A side now, Boombot, smokes, paint shells, you name it, allowing them to pave the way forward safely. With a 2-man advantage.
Rustin up top on ropes.
Spike planted.
Waits for a bit of help. Fair no. Nobody goes out. Does get a read that Xander's playing close. Free kill on the way. Paranoia was just a little bit too late. Got a 3v3 now all of a sudden. Dizzy out. Flashes will not be there, but allows Scuba just to run and gun forward. Oh my goodness, now just down to 3v2, and holy smokes. The only thing is John's got an angle here with the Sheriff on low health targets on where this spike is planted. There's the first toggle. Needs to hit the shots and just not connecting with it. Oxygen will get the retake and the round.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to say that's another misstep from M80. This is now 2 rounds in a row where they had the clear edge to win, and they've kind of fumbled it. And it's not to take any credit away from Oxygen. They're doing their job. They're taking what's given to them, you know. They're taking advantage of some of these little missteps that M80 are making. But I mean, this is a 5-on-3 start for M80. they look like they're in a pretty good spot, and then they just get bulldozed by this retake. And I mean, again, credit where credit's due on the Oxygen front. I mean, great use of Dizzy, great use of timing to swing on the player hut and catch him behind. I mean, they're doing all the right things, but again, I think this is now 2 rounds in a row M80 had in their grasp and let it slip through their fingers.
Well, it's going to be a stinger buy up here for M80 in their next offense. 5-man stack right at pillars. Rustin nearby. He's got possibly the counter strat. Judge out, first shot lands. Prowler also dealt with. Paranoia comes through, but Rustin's fine just to sit right up close and personal. And M80 have come up empty on their initial attempt.
It's like, oh yeah, I remember that whole Judge situation from last half. Let me show you a little something, something myself. Kind of what we're seeing here from Rustin at the front of B is he has certainly drawn his line in the sand over there. That's forced M80 to seek other options with these stingers in this 4-on-5 situation now. Mitch watching from range with a Bulldog, certainly going to have an edge over any stinger that tries to take a fight with him. But it'll kind of just quiet down for a bit. But it's just the quiet before the storm as we're about to see M80 put these stingers in close range on A site.
2 defenders, though, here, including Mitch. Fault line comes out, does not affect the first charge of M80.
No charges.
Spike looking to come on in. EU the one to plant. We'll be able to successfully do this, no worries. Aftershock does connect for a little bit of damage. Actually, a lot of damage. The second charge also connected onto EU, who's now down to 30 health.
Destroyed.
So it's a 5v3.5 retake, essentially. Rustin still with the Judge. Held off by John Cutie. Redux also with a Judge. Trying to play the opposite side. Hold on a second. EU still values not just getting a kill, but keeps his life in the process. Oh, and Verno gets shot up by Qualude through the dark cover. Now it's just down to can you get these Judges into play, and Oxygen have been turned around completely. Mitch doing what he can, but it's EU for 3 at 30 HP the whole time after securing the plant, and once again, we're tied.
Former round forgiven now, Shift. I mean, M80 steal one back away in a 4-on-5 with stingers only. Again, that A site, though, that's a lot of close corridor battles, right? And that's where the stinger can actually still shine. I like that M80 are maximizing the value of the weapon and making sure they get in the faces of their opponent to have their best shot at winning. And they are, with sheer force, eventually able to overwhelm their opponent there and steal one back and tie us up. Both halves has now started 1-1 Shift. I mean, no one is getting an early edge. Still, to this point, 14 rounds deep, no one has won more than 2 rounds in a row.
Yeah. But at this point in the first half, in our 3rd round of the half, Oxygen did have full purchase. This time, it's just going to be a couple of Sheriff upgrades.
True.
So M80 have the advantage in the eco, at least for now, as things get a little bit wild.
Yeah, it's been a spicy affair, that's for sure. But that's exactly what we expected between 2 top 5 teams and challengers. Yeah. And a previous engagement between these 2 teams having gone the distance. We knew it was possible.
Brawler gets sent into B. Likely only made contact with Mitch. Offense still primed and ready to execute over towards A. They do have a Nightfall if they want to try to use this to open up the site. And Rustin's just trying to play a 1-for-1 corner right here. As the sentry drops, he will back up a little further in. There's the Nightfall. Rustin will be affected by it. His fault line comes across the map defensively, gives Rustin a chance, but there's just no way he fights that off with the Sheriff. So Spike will be planted, paint shells in, damage tallied onto a couple of players, and they were going to deny drop as M80 throw a lot of utility to make sure that Oxygen's retake has to come from the high ground. Nismo backing up in towards mid lane. John Cutie makes sure that that path is safe, taking down Mitch on the cross. Oxygen now all in from drop side. Whoa, they get 2. Scuba collapse. Gets Koala Noob and EU. Hold on a second. Still winnable, but a tough post plant to break with just Sheriffs. Toxic screen goes up. Oxygen not going to find anybody to make contact with. Nismo checks, sees that no one's on, takes down 2, give him 3. No, not quite. Xander will finish it off, and M80 will take their 8.
Yeah, really good layering of utility from M80 to get onto that A site. It's Poison Orb Boombot to make sure Stairs is taken care of long enough to swing the left side of the site with the Nightfall. And they just overwhelm Rustin inside main. Scuba certainly made things interesting with that Sheriff, but Isbell and Co. able to reel it back in before it got out of control. Take the lead, 8-7 now. But Oxygen onto a full buy, but if they lose this, they're back to saving. That's where things get a little bit scary. This is a pivotal potential swing round here.
Oxygen looking to peek over towards C. No contact though. And look at the aggressive stance here with Verno getting really just the assistance towards C with the Dizzy, but it's all about Redux on the other side. Already controlling through A, and he's got help from Mitch. That is a deadly combo defensively for Oxygen.
Yeah, good use of Thanos one there from John Cutie to block off the Hall and allow himself to get closer to that lockdown. We do have this aggressive setup at Rubble here with Redux boosted, so this could be an interesting interaction depending on how M80 choose to clear this.
There's the first contact. Oh man, the fault line just comes out too late. Redux is trying to play for the off angle. That was going to be what was supposed to win the first 1v1, and as he drops, so does Mitch. That deadly duo immediately shut down. Rustin gives up his position a touch, but still comes away with the kill. Not bad, as Oxygen are going to have to play retake at A.
That is actually impressive. Rustin got anything at all from that spot. I mean, he was in a tight corridor against Paint Shells and Boombot and still grabs a frag, but he's down to 51 HP now, and M80 still have man advantage with the spike down. Once again, the retake coming in quickly from Oxygen. That's been kind of their forte. They have not wasted much time getting back to the side of these retakes.
No mosh, though, for Verno. He's getting to work collecting the Diz and the side. Nismo not going to find the same success he did the previous round on the same angle. Lots of spam on the way in, though. Verno trying to hold for the defuse. He's going to get this thing to halfway. He's going to try to hold all the way through it. No, not going to happen. M80 too quick to find the kills and check it. That'll get them the 2-round cushion, and Oxygen now are going to be in financial straits.
Yeah. This is the repercussions that they will now have to suffer with their backs up against the wall. Again, I like the thought on this forward A setup, but it just got broken apart by M80. Just a little bit of an off timing. That's going to put them up 9-7. A great chance to now hit double digits here before Oxygen can purchase again. It's a great time to call a timeout, in my opinion.
Yeah, me too.
This gives you a chance to kind of think about, hey, what can we buy to where we still have something to work with, but we don't hamstring ourselves for our next full buy? And then what do we want to do? How do we want to be proactive? Or do we want to gamble stack? Like, what is our best chance to try to steal a round back from M80? As, you know, once again, this will be, I guess, the second time this match where we've seen a back-and-forth affair start to transform to M80 gravity control. Now, last time, Oxygen battled back and kept it back up in the air. Will that happen again, or can M80 maintain control? That's the big question coming up this next round.
Well, Oxygen so far have been great at punishing the small mistakes that M80 have made. No better time than here. 3 sheriffs, 4. Not going to be a 5th at the moment. Now, there it is. All 5 sheriffs are out. And you have a couple of ultimates that could be game changers here. I mean, you're really close to the Thrash, the Rolling Thunder, and the Lockdown. So, in terms of a winnable Thrifty round,
yes,
this one's not out of the realm of question.
Like you said, multiple players, 1 frag away with the sheriff of getting their ult and being able to cause a huge ruckus. So that's a good call by you. So we are going to see Oxygen charge get a little bit forward here onto the B halls. Nismo baits the orb.
Does take a lot of defensive utility out, pulls so much. On top of that, of course, Oxygen have also given away how many members are stacked here at B with all the utility being thrown.
Yep.
But M80 survive potential play forward, and now it's on to the reset. Rustin trying to catch something towards Mound, but just a bit wide.
Yeah, M80 doing a good job about kind of staying back, anticipating Oxygen's aggression and not falling prey to it. EU finds Mitch. Oh, that's a beautiful closing of the Nebula to just 3-phase Koala, but John Cutie able to trade it back.
Yeah.
So equally impressive from him to kind of stop that from getting out of control. But I like that look from Oxygen. That was really well timed at Mound.
Yep. Still have 2 defenders on site here for Oxygen. 3rd on the way over, but just had the Cosmic Divide. Showstopper had been earned, thrown right on into the waiting mitts of Scuba. And even though Verno gets 1, he's immediately traded out, leaving Redux by himself. As Xander will get the plan off, he's got plenty of bodyguards around him. These would have to be 3 miracle shots from Redux. First contact, trying to make it through the wall. That one a little bit sturdier than most of the brick walls on the map, though.
True.
Sees the shoulder, a little high-low stack. First shot lands. M80 giving him a look, and oh boy, a lot of damage in, but eventually the numbers will win outright, and M80 get to double digits.
Yeah, kind of respect some of the creativity from Oxygen there with that triple face at Mount, the Nebula drop, but in the end, the superior firepower of M80 does reign supreme, but now all those ults come into play for Oxygen, and they're also going to change things up by putting an operator in Redux's hands for the first time defensively this half, so that's a lot of new variables added to the game. that could throw M80 a little bit of a curveball here. They do have lockdown, and they are one away from Viper's Pit to kind of control a site and play a comfortable post plant with the alts. But again, the counter alts could be right there from Rusted and Mitch with the Rolling Thunder.
Lots of wild cards.
Yes.
In round 18 here for both sides.
We did have an 8 alt round yesterday that we commentated. That was pretty wild. This one's not going to be quite as crazy, but I mean, 5 is still a lot.
Yes, it is. I'll tell you, that was one of the most mixy rounds of Valorant I think you and I have ever casted.
Yeah, I didn't know what was going on. I'm going to be honest.
M80 throwing a couple of shots Mitch's direction. Throws some in response.
Poison's off.
Aggressive game of tag between both teams. But backup comes out, and now it's just down to 60 seconds, and M80 are looking to actually transition towards A, where Redux is waiting. This is all about, can he find a shot over the top of this Viper screen? Sure does. Gets the first, tries to boost his way around, but he actually exposes himself too much. So again, John provides the trade. Rustin playing inside a door. Has to hold his life. Also needs a lot of help. Mitch maybe primed to hit this Rolling Thunder sooner rather than later, but no, it doesn't come out in time. Rustin gets isolated. The Rolling Thunder doesn't even affect much of this offense at all. So mistiming here for Oxygen, but Verno, impressive shot lands. Thrash will get called in. Nightfall on the response. Can Thrash connect? It may have a deeper side of things. And oh yeah, Nismo gets completely caught off guard by it. Defensively, the Cosmic Divide's also in play. This stopped the plant from happening. They're rotating over towards Scuba, who's here waiting. Oh my. Quality, last one left for the 1v3. Not a lot of time on the clock here. And he's not gonna have a chance to get the kills nor plant if he keeps this up. Trying to stick for it, but he's not gonna bait enough players over. And without any time to plant, Oxygen will successfully hold off M80 from getting to 11.
Yeah, that was a big time play from Verno. Gets the kill on drop, pulls out the ult, nails Nismo, and that really starts to break down M80's attacking strategy. It was a good initial trade, in my opinion, from M80 to only allow Redux 1 and to get Rustin down immediately at main. So it was a great start to the round from M80, but an equally impressive response from Oxygen. Again, big thanks to Verno for his frag and his ult. It's going to take 2 of their ults off the board, but they still have the showstopper and lockdown. Ult advantage, though, for M80. Viper's Pit lockdown, as well as the From the Shadows from Qualanoob. Big round here.
Yeah, but look at the potential stack from Oxygen. Double door waterfall play possibly in play here for the defense. There's the Diz, door opens up. Scuba looking for timing to poke on through, but they miss it just barely. M80 had not fully committed in. Still, the gunfight's existing in and around the mound. First blood good for Qualanoob. Any more to come? Scuba's in trouble. He's stuck into a corner here, but tries to get out, and as he does, he gets maybe even more than just the first. Boy, he had a look at it, but once more, guess who? John for the successful trade, and M80 have the numbers.
Dude, M80 played that so smart. They just stayed spread. Like, there were never an opportunity for Oxygen to, like, line up 2 players and get off, you know, extra damage, so to speak. You know, M80 just kept lobbing utility, stayed spread out, fought their way through that. Now they have the 4-on-3 lockdown to try to block open the C side. Fearno's looking to try to gamble and just see if he can shut down any entries before he gets detained. And he's gonna get one.
Oh, but not a second. He gets the double.
30 seconds.
Maybe there's a chance here because there's plenty of tools for Redux to clear out this Viper's Pit. Same can be said for Mitch. They get to work, spamming down the doorway. Xander's on the opposite side. That aftershock will force him to move. Showstopper now out. Snake bite through, but Rux get over the top. Does he find EU in the corner? Oh, they body block each other, but Redux, he still gets the kill. Now it's down to still working around the outside of this Viper's Pit. Qualanoob just over the top of the stairs. Xander trying to get the job done with the shorty, and now it's just down to Xander. And they know he's got a shorty trying to work around the outside. Can you toggle? Force him to try to check this. He will have to go. There's the toggle. Oh, but Mitch gets shut down. And now it's just down to spamming. Oh, how about that for Xander? Little 1v2 through the green mist. And the eBay clutch allows M80 to get to 11.
Another tight round, man. That's all I can really say. That's been the story of the game. Again, I thought M80 played it really well initially, but you got to give credit to Redux and Co. for actually finding a way to get this back into a winnable 2-on-2. But Xander plays it so smart, gets the dub. And, you know, these rounds have been close. That has been true. I mean, this game has been a grind. It's been a scrap. That's no question asked. But at the end of the day, when you look at the overall timeline, M80 has only conceded 1 round this attacking side so far.
Yep.
And so results are what matters. I mean, close only counts in a couple of different scenarios. And, you know, it doesn't matter if you aren't winning the rounds. And so it's kind of getting to that point where, yeah, Oxygen are doing well to keep themselves in the mix. But now that 3-round separation is there, their economy is starting to get limited. Their options are starting to run out because M80 are seemingly finding success. Even if it, you know, takes some extra effort to get it done, they're getting it done. And that's the point. And so, you know, this is kind of Oxygen's last shot here.
Yeah, I agree. And the economy is not going to be great.
That's actually 2 rounds. My apologies.
Yeah, but still, it's one of those right here that you're going to want to force your way into, most likely.
Yeah.
And there's not going to be much left if they lose this round. I think you put it in a pretty good spot, honestly speaking, as far as what could possibly come here. Oxygen off the rip. Kind of once again put some pressure over towards Mount, but M80 not dissuaded from still moving forward. And oh, Scuba jumps across, and Nismo gave him a look, but could not quite land it. Rest of the defense still lurking over towards A, but M80 look, they want to go quick here.
Indeed, they have not really shown anything else other than a player kind of lurking inside the center B hallway. So I mean, they could still pivot back through the door here into a B hit. They're certainly feinting that by opening up the door and trying to pull some attention away from the C site, which they've successfully done. The remaining defense is now playing deep inside Waterfall, so kind of playing more of a retake setup. And so this will give M80 the ground to get the spy planted on C. It's all going to come down to, can they retake with this lockdown from Rustin?
Rustin just has to stay alive here. No reason to even bother throwing a shoulder. You need this lockdown to be successful. But the thing about this is look how far forward Nismo has gotten. There's the lockdown. Fault line does connect onto Nismo. Flash to fall, but Nismo shakes off the concussive effects. Now it's just down to Kenny with the gunfights. First one good. Nismo gets the second. Redux shuts him out. Defensive lockdown still allows Oxygen a chance to work their way in towards site. But how do you deal with this post plant? All of it being on mound. You know it's coming this direction. You've got a mosh pit. That's about it from Verno. And that may not be enough, and Oxygen will read that and say, nope, can't contest it. We have to save the rifles.
Yeah, you know, there's the threat of nanos and snake bites and everything else is going to keep knocking you off the spike. You don't have a way to get out there and really take the fights you need to secure a defuse. And based on what their economy is, I think this is ultimately the right call to just back all, save these 3 rifles, try to play for OT.
Match point.
But again, they've only been able to fit around in here or there. Now they're going to be asked to win 4 in a row to force an OT. That is a tall task, especially with M80 having, you know, ults available, you know, comfortable full buy in their own right. Mitch has to go judge. Now, obviously, that can still have plenty of impact in the right place. But you still get the slight nod to M80 as far as resources.
100%. Man, what a tight map it's been, though. All line at the ready bench will use that early. It does connect on the pretty much entirety of M80's offense, who were looking to get over towards a Rebel. So they'll be a little bit more hard-pressed to clear ground. Ultimately, they still will own this position, but things to think about here for M80 as they continue on their way forward, especially seeing as Oxygen have fully cleared C-Mount. They should have a really good idea that this is the play.
Yeah, they have so much utility playing on the B side as well with the Killjoy and the Astra, so they have a flank potential. They have B lockdown with utility. They're in great position to rotate very quickly to A if need be. You're already starting to see Verno peel off towards the backside. And so, I mean, this hit from M80, depending on the timing here, could get blown up.
Spike's still not in a position to be planted as of yet. Oxygen uses this as a second to come over. Scuba, big first win. He gets the second 2. Are you kidding me? And now that earns the Cosmic Divide. That could be a huge tool for Oxygen. Thing is, M80 have not committed to the plant yet. They're changing their post plant up. This is all about Nismo. He is so far forward. We're going to have a battle of the raises deep. And that could determine the round. And Nismo, he just sneaks past the boom bot. How smart is that? Now the showstopper tracking back over towards mid. Does not quite connect. 3v3. EU still holding by door. Nismo on the corner, working with Koala Dude. 1-for-1 goes the exchange. Scuba now to the 2v1. Nismo's gonna have to do it all himself, and Mitch comes up from behind, hits him from the side, and Oxygen stay alive.
Yeah, I feel like there was never a point in that round where the team was comfortable that they were going to win it. I mean, it looked good from Oxygen initially. Scuba getting some big frags from stairs, getting some assistance from B-Link, kind of establishing a slight crossfire, but then Nismo gets up the rope into heaven, pops off, grabs the showstopper, doesn't land the mark though at stairs, which keeps Oxygen's lifeline available. And then they come in, and again, Nismo makes it close. He finds some really key frags that makes you wonder, but in the end, Oxygen do just hold on. I think that round is kind of a good summary of really how the whole game has played out.
True.
It's been a lot of tight rounds.
Another difference maker here. The Odin out. Mitch is like, what just hit me? Did anyone catch the license plate of that truck? Koala Noob gets the first blood, no worries, and Oxygen already thwarted, but look how quick Verno's moving through C. So again, it's a 5v4, sure, but Oxygen will have some awareness that this hit's moving in their way towards A.
Sure, Turret will pick up on this flank, though, if he decides to go all the way, and so M80 do kind of have their bases covered in that regard. Got so much early damage on Mitch with that spam, then finish it off, not allowing him to escape into B. We have like a double A main set up here from Oxygen.
Bring them down.
And then one just kind of playing passive towards stairs. EU, in the meantime, starting to try to clear a way forward onto B. Trips the turret. Gonna start pulling some attention this way. This peels Rustin off of being support at A.
Now here's the hit. Two players stacked over towards door side. Scuba right inside the Nebula. Boombot. Oh, it's gonna pack a punch. If that didn't, the Shorty definitely did. And the Odin gets to work spamming it out. Just down to Redux. Oh, what a fight it was for Oxygen. But the new guy up is gonna have to go 1v5. Taps at the first, gets the second, but Koala Noob quick to pounce out, find the kill, and it'll be a 13-9, this time favoring M80. If only just barely does.
Yeah, there was a lot of tight rounds throughout the course of this game. There's no doubt about it. You got to applaud Oxygen's efforts. But again, it's the same thing that's haunted Oxygen every single time on this map. It's the defensive side has not always been there for them. Even when they get a good attack going, they just haven't always been able to have the defense to close. Certainly that round, or that map rather, it was pretty tight. They definitely had some big moments, but M80, just like that little bit of added creativity, especially that final round with the Odin spam for the first time. I don't think I've really even seen people use that lineup before on the attacking side very often. Usually it's just like in A main or something like that you see an Odin. So that was pretty wild. And was enough to kind of be the wild card to get them the win.
Well, lots of things to think through. New comps grace us here for map number 1 between two tested squads. And on top of that, what looks to be a very tight affair with not much separating these two teams as we continue on through this best of 3. Send things off to just a brief break. When we come back, it'll be the desks breaking things down and setting us up to continue on with the series right after this.
Do you want to ask your favorite player a question after their match? Or get their in-game settings? The Fan Zone encompasses fan banners, a player settings channel, and a lot more. Here's how you can join to gain access to interact with fellow fans on your favorite team. Firstly, join the Discord at pks.gg/discord. Select NA Challengers Fan Zone. Pick your favorite team from the drop-down menu. And don't forget to show off that banner in Discord and on your socials. And that's it. You're in. You can now interact with fellow fans, ask player questions, and rep your team properly.